Hello everyone, welcome to NEET Essentials by from Justget MBBS. I am Karthikeyan, second year MBBS student, also part-time NEET biology faculty. So I'm going to start with chemical control and coordination, and the first thing that we are going to discuss here is on hypothalamus and pituitary, very basic information that we are going to see. So one thing that I would like to inform you all here is this is not to give you a detailed explanation on every single topic. Rather, assuming that you have read the content once or twice and you are familiarized with the basic concepts, these videos are meant to give you an idea on what are the important points that you must know for NEET and what you need to concentrate on. So I'll be just giving you gist of every single concept so that you get an idea about it. If you, in case you have any doubts in any single topic and you want an elaborate explanation, a detailed explanation, you can kindly put on the comment box so that I will be doing that particular topic in an elaborate manner. So whatever videos are going to be uploaded from my side is going to be there for maximum 20 minutes, not more than that. So one or two videos might extend to 20 to 25 minutes, but not more than 25 minutes because my app also allows only 25 minutes of recording. So that's the information I want to tell. So please understand this basic point. It is a video that is going to cover NEET essentials and not elaborate concepts. With that said, I would like to start off with the first topic, that is on hypothalamus and then pituitary gland. So not that important from NEET aspect, but just few information that might help you to get into the track. I'll just included this picture and we'll just try to explain. So this is hypothalamus. This region is hypothalamus, and this portion is my pituitary gland. So you all know pituitary gland is known as the master of the gland because it is trying to regulate almost every single hormonal secretion from different endocrine glands. See, one thing that you need to understand hereafter is it's not just the pituitary gland that is going to control everything. It is the HPA, meaning hypothalamo pituitary axis, that is going to regulate the functions of other hormones. So I'm just going to highlight few important aspects of that hypothalamic pituitary axis regulation alone. So basic information that you must know with respect to hypothalamus is it is going to release a group of hormones called as releasing hormones. So these releasing hormones are going to communicate to the pituitary gland. Now, if you look at to this picture, we have got two types of pituitary. One is called as your anterior pituitary, another one is called as posterior pituitary. So first basic thing that you must know here is the hypothalamus is going to communicate with anterior pituitary by means of a portal circulation. So if you observe in this picture, this portion is my anterior pituitary, and from the hypothalamus it communicates to the anterior pituitary, right? So this portal circulation is concerned mainly with your anterior pituitary. So hypothalamus is going to communicate to anterior pituitary, or it is going to activate the anterior pituitary by means of portal circulation. So I'll just divide this into two subdivisions mentioning anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary here. So I'll write it as ant pituitary, and on the other side I have got post pituitary. So it communicates through portal circulation, meaning, see, what is going to happen here is the releasing hormones. So anterior pituitary has got some hormones, hypothalamus has got its corresponding releasing hormone. Say for example, let me just take an example. Say anterior pituitary has got an hormone called TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. So if this stimulating hormone has to be stimulated, so anterior pituitary has got this TSH, but that has to be stimulated or activated. For activation, you need TRH there. So this TRH from the hypothalamus, it goes all the way through this portal circulation, or these arteries is going to carry this TRH, convey it to the anterior pituitary, where it is going to stimulate TSH, and through from anterior pituitary it gets to the bloodstream. So this is what I try to say when I by no portal circulation. So the no, it is through the blood transportation. Whereas if you take posterior pituitary, it is through the axonal transport. So when I say axonal transport, it is via the neurons. So hypothalamus is just going to send an impulse. It does not have any predominant releasing hormones and all that. It has just got that stimulating factor there. So I'll just say what are those stimulating factors. So from hypothalamus, the stimuli is going to travel along the neuron, and it is going to directly stimulate the posterior pituitary to release the hormones. So we have not got any blood vessels here that is going to transport any hormone called RH and all to the pituitary. Okay, so this hypothalamus pituitary axis is very important. So we'll just take few examples to understand this HPA. I have not covered the corresponding endocrine gland because I want you guys to understand right here. So two things I would like to discuss here with respect to hypothalamus pituitary axis. One is thyroid feedback regulation. So how thyroid secretion is being controlled by this hypothalamus pituitary axis, and how adrenal secretion, adrenal cortical secretion. Now, when we study adrenal gland, I would have mentioned for adrenal cortex, we have got two zones, cortical zone and a medullary zone. For cortex, the stimulation is going to be from this HPA, whereas from medulla, it has got a different stimulus that I would have mentioned there. So if you take how this thyroid secretion is controlled, so from your hypothalamus, we have got an hormone called TRH, that is thyroid releasing hormone, thyrotropic releasing hormone or thyroid releasing hormone, that acts on anterior pituitary to stimulate the release of TSH. So always remember, pituitary gland majority it consists of stimulating hormones. Okay, GH are those stimulating hormones. From anterior pituitary, this TSH it travels all the way to the thyroid gland, stimulate the thyroid hormones T3, T4. So if you take here, everything I would have mentioned as stimuli. Okay, so when there is TRH, yes, it is going to stimulate the release of TSH. So it's a positive signal. TSH, again, a positive signal. But this T3, T4 has got a negative effect on TRH. What I'm trying to convey here is, see, say suppose I need 100 units of T3, T4 in my blood. So accordingly, what will happen? This deficiency of thyroid is sensed by our body. That signal is sent to the hypothalamus, and from hypothalamus, we have got TRH stimulating TSH and in turn stimulating T3, T4. So gradually there is increase in this thyroid levels. Now, once it reaches the sufficient amount, say suppose initially there was just 30 units of thyroid, and because of this deficiency, TRH was stimulated, and then so consequently all these events happen. So once it reached to 100 unit of level, hereafter I do not need any thyroid, because other than that's my target and I have achieved my target. So what is going to happen is this increased levels of T3, T4 itself, or the thyroid gland per se, is going to send the information to TRH. Hey, thanks for stimulating me. I am done with my work. So such a kind of negative signal is sent. So once the negative signal goes to TRH, what is the response? There is decrease in TRH. When there is decrease in TRH, there is decrease in TSH. When there is decrease in TSH, there is decrease in T3, T4. So gradually, these levels, the release of these hormones will gradually decrease. So this is called as a negative feedback loop. In general, such a kind of regulation of HPA wherein the sink or the destination is going to have a negative signal on the initiator is called as a negative feedback loop. So this thyroid gland, it has a negative control on the hypothalamus. So it is called as negative feedback loop. Similarly, if you take adrenal cortex stimulation from hypothalamus, I have got an hormone called CRH, corticotropic releasing hormone. If you want, I can expand. Corticotrophic releasing hormone. RH means releasing hormone. Okay. From there, we have got something called as ACTH from anterior pituitary. I'll list the pituitary hormone soon, just to make you understand what is this HPA. So from hypothalamus, we have got CRH that is going to act on your anterior pituitary to stimulate ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. This ACTH acts on adrenal cortex, stimulates its hormones. So about the details of cortical hormones, we'll see in a separate video. So again, if you take this has got a stimulatory thing. Once adrenal cortical hormones comes to a sufficient level, those adrenal cortex is going to send a negative signal to hypothalamus, thanking for its timely help and asking, hey, shut up, whenever needed, again I'll help you. So this kind of regulation is called as a negative feedback. Positive feedback we have got with respect to parturition, that is delivery of the baby, that is not needed now. We'll probably see in 12th reproduction unit. Okay, so now understand this is how this HPA works: hypothalamus, pituitary, the concerned endocrine gland, and this is how this feedback loop is going to function. I hope you are clear with HPA. Now talking about pituitary. So we had a picture wherein we have got something like this. This was my anterior pituitary, and this was my posterior pituitary. Now, this anterior pituitary, in medical terms, we call it as adenohypophysis, and posterior pituitary we call it as neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis and then neurohypophysis. And in your book he has given that it has got 3 subdivisions, but practically we do not have that. So anterior pituitary in turn is divided into 2. So this green is one portion. So this green is one portion, and this yellow one kutti portion, this yellow in between one is one small portion, and maybe I can add one more highlighter color for you. This one is another portion. So green, I'll try to expand it a bit. Yes. So we have got 3 regions now. So anterior pituitary in turn has been divided into 2 colors, green and yellow, and then the posterior pituitary has got only one pink color. We have only one part there. So this anterior pituitary, it is said that we have got 2 parts. One is called as pars distalis. The middle thin yellow portion is called as pars intermediate, which is almost not found in humans. According to evolutionary history, it has been said that we have got something called pars intermedia. A posterior pituitary, it was referred to as pars nervosa. Maybe because since it is under the axonal transport, the name had come pars nervosa. So we have got 3 subdivisions, 2 in anterior pituitary and 1 in posterior pituitary. So almost all the anterior pituitary hormones. Okay. Now, before that, pars nervosa or the posterior pituitary, we have got only 2 hormones. One is oxytocin, another one is antidiuretic hormone or your ADH. Antidiuretic hormone. These are the only 2 posterior pituitary hormones. So whatever other hormones we are going to talk about, it is going to be concerned with anterior pituitary. So what are the other hormones? Like your FSH, LH, so which is going to act on your gonads. Next, about your growth hormone, prolactin, which is going to help in lactation. Then already we saw about TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Then we saw about ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. These are some hormones that is concerned with pars distalis. Now, this pars intermedia, it is concerned with secretion of only one hormone that is called MSH, that stands for melanocyte stimulating hormone. I hope you would have guessed the function melanocyte, which means it is responsible for pigmentation of the skin. Melanocyte stimulating hormone. So that in turn is going to act on the melanocytes present on the skin, and that is going to stimulate the release of melanin pigment from those cells, and thus it is going to impart color to the skin. So 5 hormones with respect to pars distalis, what are they? They are FSH or LH, growth hormone, prolactin, TSH, ACTH. With respect to pars intermedia, melanocyte stimulating hormone, 2 hormones, oxytocin, ADH. Oxytocin, it's a pregnancy hormone, helps in delivery of the baby. We will be studying in reproduction in detail of how it is stimulated, how it acts. And TSH, I have told already, it stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete T3, T4. ACTH stimulates adrenal cortex to stimulate adrenal cortical hormones. Prolactin, again, will be studying in reproduction. It is just going to help in lactation. So production and synthesis of milk, release of milk, all that. Growth hormone with respect to growth of the individual. FSH and LH, again, gonads. So again, we'll be studying in reproduction. So I am not going to discuss much about it now. So one thing I would like to discuss here is on ADH. That's a favorite examiner's question. Anti-diuretic hormone. That will bring me to the end of this session. ADH. What is the meaning of diuresis? Diuretic or diuresis? Loss of water through urine. This is the actual meaning of diuresis. Loss of water through urine is called diuresis. So anti-diuretic, which means it is going to be opposite to this, that is, it is going to prevent loss of water through urine. Now, this hormone again will be studying in regulation of excretion. There we'll be talking about where it acts, how it acts. Here what you need to know is the disorder associated with its oversecretion. So, see, whenever there is hyposecretion, sorry, not oversecretion, hyposecretion of ADH, we get a metabolic disorder called as diabetes insipidus. Now, in glucose homeostasis, in my further videos, INSIPIDUS, we'll be talking about diabetes mellitus, which is because of hyposecretion of insulin. So if there is deficiency of insulin, it leads on to a disorder called as diabetes mellitus, that is characterized by excess of glucose in the urine. Diabetes mellitus, DM mellitus. But if there is hyposecretion of ADH, there is going to be excess of water in the urine. So if you try to do glucose test in the patients who complain of continuous urine excretion or continuous thirst and all that, and you go for a glucose test in urine, if it is negative, then you can suspect for diabetes insipidus. So if there is excess of water loss through urine, then it is diabetes insipidus, predominantly due to hyposecretion of ADH. Hyposecretion of insulin leads on to a condition called diabetes mellitus, where there is going to be glucose present in the urine along with other symptoms that will be discussed in glucose homeostasis video. I hope you are clear with hypothalamus and pituitary. So you just have to know what are the possible question. If I would be the examiner for NTA, I would mostly take only which of the following hormone is concerned with pars intermedia. I have got no other question. But again, I will also be interested in this negative feedback loop. This can even be your school part-term test question. Talk about the regulation of thyroid feedback or adrenal cortex and all that. So have a broad idea on what are the hormones, or other possible question, name the posterior pituitary hormones. Which of the following group of hormones belongs to posterior pituitary? So your answer should be oxytocin and then ADH or your antidiuretic hormone. So with that said, this topic is done. I'll meet you on the next video. Thank you all. Tata. Bye.